In 1944, the United States had a problem. Britain had developed the means of hitting massive German fortifications, such as the enormous U-boat bunkers on the Atlantic coast, with some of the biggest conventional bombs of World War II. America had not. With the advent of the V-weapons campaign against England and northwest Europe in 1944, there was new urgency to destroy V-weapons sites, particularly V-1 flying bomb shelters, these weapons causing considerable mayhem and alarm in the UK and also northwestern Europe.
Almost 2,000 flying bombs fell victim to Allied fighter planes. Of the 8,000 bombs launched, 2,300 penetrated British defenses, most of them falling in the London vicinity. The propulsion roar of the flying bomb was easily identified and gave warning of the approaching blast. New deep shelters built for this emergency were put to use and saved the lives of thousands of people. Hundreds of homes, hospitals, and public buildings were hit. They fell in crowded streets during rush traffic hours.
The V-2 ballistic missile was even more alarming, as there was no way to shoot it down once airborne. Operation Crossbow was the Allied response, a concerted campaign to destroy all permanent sites associated with the V-weapons, as well as their manufacturing plants and transportation networks. As I mentioned, the British had developed firstly the 12,000-pound Tallboy earthquake bomb. This was 5 tons of explosives and could only be carried by a modified Avro Lancaster heavy bomber. As part of Operation Crossbow, Tallboys were used to severely damage the V-2 missile assembly bunker at La Coupole in France, the 24th of June 1944. During this attack, the RAF also dropped an even bigger bomb, the Grand Slam, 22,000 pounds, or equating to 6.5 tons of Torpex, a special kind of high explosive used in torpedoes, another so-called earthquake bomb used to undermine the foundations and cause structural failures in German bunkers.
The following pictures show its volcanic effect in an attack on Arnsberg, Germany.
The United States Army Air Forces couldn't use the Tallboy or Grand Slam bombs because its European theater bombers, the B-17 Flying Fortress and the B-24 Liberator, couldn't lift them. And it was unlikely that the Americans would start using Lancasters. Instead, the US decided to fight flying bombs with a flying bomb of its own. Compared to the German V-1 flying bomb, a robot weapon that flew to its target without human control, the US decided to create a radio-controlled flying bomb utilizing old B-17 flying fortresses. The technology already existed in World War II for planes to be flown remotely. The idea was simple. Some B-17s that were nearing the end of their service lives after multiple missions over Europe would be fitted with automatic pilots. Each plane would be packed with boxes of explosives, up to 30,000 pounds. That is 13 tons of high explosives. In order to do this, all armor, seats, guns and bomb racks were removed for maximum weight savings. The drone aircraft would be controlled by radio signals from an accompanying B-17. The controller flew the drone B-17 via 2 television cameras fitted in the cockpit, so that he could see both the flight controls and the ground. But there was a risky part of the operation. The drone B-17 couldn't take off remotely. Volunteers were called for, and the procedure was that a pilot and a flight engineer would control the drone during takeoff, and once the B-17 reached an altitude of 2,000 feet, set the automatic pilot, arm the 30,000 pounds of explosives, and then bail out. A pilot aboard the control B-17 would then take over and fly the drone bomber remotely to crash it into the target. Codenamed Operation Aphrodite, the 562nd Bomb Squadron flew the missions from a remote location in Norfolk on England's east coast, flying from RAF Thursfield, which is only 16 miles from where I'm recording this today in Norwich. By any stretch of the imagination, the Aphrodite program was very risky, and a lot could and did go disastrously wrong. The first mission was flown against a huge bunker at Mimouek in France on the 4th of August 1944. The bunker had been constructed as part of the V3 program, a supergun able to bombard London using special multi-charge projectiles. Fortunately, the Allies' advance out of the Normandy bridgehead had actually caused the V3 to be abandoned before it came online, though development continued in Luxembourg at a second site. The Aphrodite attack was a failure. The drone pilot and engineer successfully bailed out, but the B-17 went into an uncontrollable spin and was destroyed. On the same day, B-17 drones were launched against a V-1 flying bomb bunker at Siracourt, France, and the huge V-2 base at La Coupole. The first crashed in woods in England, the pilot killed when he bailed out. The second exploded at Orford in Suffolk, wiping out 2 acres of countryside and also killing the flight engineer. 3 B-17 drones were launched against the V-2 site at La Coupole, France on the 6th of August. 2 fell into the North Sea, while the third was shot down by German flak at Gravelines in France. These kinds of failures continued in subsequent missions, and another pilot was killed. The US Navy also operated Aphrodite drones, not B-17s, but modified PBY-1s, ex-B-24 Liberators. The most famous incident was the loss of one of these drones over the Blythe estuary in Suffolk on the 12th of August 1944, when it detonated prematurely, killing instantly Wilford J. Willey and Joseph P. Kennedy, Jr., the older brother of future U.S. President John F. Kennedy. In fact, none of the U.S. drones managed to hit their assigned targets, most being lost to malfunctions, bad weather, premature detonation, and German flak. There were a few near misses, but on the 27th of January 1945, the project was terminated by the U.S. Army Air Force after 14 failed missions involving 22 drone aircraft. The Germans also created radio-controlled drone aircraft in World War II, the Mistel program, but also found similar control and targeting problems as the Americans. In the end, 1940s technology required more development before such remote control weapons could become effective, and bunker-busting bombs like the Tallboy and Grand Slam, dropped in the conventional manner, remained the most effective method for dealing with massive German bunkers in World War II. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.